Alright, let's talk Ghost House. This movie takes place in Bangkok, Thailand, and the horror starts right away with someone being victimized in an alley. I like that. If you haven't seen the trailer, this is a movie about an American couple vacationing in Thailand and completely ignoring the cultural traditions and not taking things seriously when they are warned about ghosts. So you know what happens next. After hanging around in the city for a while, they meet two British dudes who are shady as heck because the very first thing they say to the girls, "Oh, that's an expensive ring you got on." And I'm thinking to myself, they're sizing you up for a con job. But of course, they trust the two British guys and go off into the woods with them instead of sticking with the Asian tour guide that they had, who knew his way around probably better than the two British guys that are about to either rip you off or do something horrible to you. The tour guide's name was Gogo, by the way. I like that actor. He did a really good job. Already, I don't like the girl. She's so passive-aggressive. Before they went out to the country with the British dudes, the two British dudes took them to a strip club, and I guess the girl didn't want to go in with her boyfriend, so she sat outside with one of the British guys, you know, flirting heavy with him, while her boyfriend went in with the other British guy. One of the strippers ran up and kissed her boyfriend, which was no fault of his. It just happened, and he pushed her off and went on about his way. But when he came back out, she threw a complete fit about the lipstick on him from the stripper kissing him, and then she just acted a complete ass. And I'm like, number one, why didn't you just take your ass in the strip club with him? Had you been there, you would have seen it wasn't his fault. But no, you want to act like, you know, I don't know what you would call it if you don't want to go into a strip club because you have issues with nudity or something, even though you have breasts yourself. So why would you be offended by seeing breasts if you have breasts yourself? I don't understand it. I've been inside strip clubs. I don't have a problem with them. She should have just went inside, had a good time, had a drink with her man, and then things would have been gravy. But instead, she wanted to sit outside, flirt with the other dude, and then flip it around and try to be passive aggressive to her boyfriend. Needless to say, I didn't like her. Not to mention, she's upset with a stripper's lipstick on his cheek. What about the booty juice and coochie juice all over him that the stripper's rubbing all over? I mean, that's what the strippers do. They're gonna rub their booty and coochie juice all over your man, but you're upset about the lipstick on his cheek. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So anyway, out of spite, she drags her half-drunk boyfriend into the van with the two British dudes that they just met 30-40 minutes earlier to go out into the woods of a country they've never been in before. The Brits take a piece of her scarf, wrap it around a little figurine, and place it on a shrine, and then tell her to go take the figurine off the shrine, and then they start hauling ass. She doesn't notice this at all, but her boyfriend notices them running off and tries to catch them. When that scene happened, my sister said, people who are that stupid shouldn't travel. They call Gogo to come pick them up, but the girl is seeing things and acting wigged out, and the guy thinks that she's sick. When Gogo gets there, he ends up bringing them to some wise women, and the wise women end up calling a shaman, and they try to explain to the dude what's happening to his girl. Of course, since he is an arrogant American, he does not listen to anything they have to say. He doesn't believe in such things, and they are given a talisman or amulet, can't remember which one it is, to ward off the evil spirit. They go back to the hotel room, and do they keep the talisman or amulet on? Of course not. If they did, the horror movie would be over. They took off the talisman, and you know what's gonna happen next. And I just keep thinking, whenever people do these things in movies, that a hard head makes a soft ass. When worse things start happening to the girl, the guy goes and tracks down the Brits because he thinks it's something that they did, which it is something that they did. They tell him to go see this other dude that's like sitting in the back of a brothel with a bunch of lady boys around him. When you go see the other dude, it's an old fat white dude that lives in Thailand. He pretty much tells them the same thing that the two wise women and the shaman told them, but because it's a old white man telling them, all of a sudden now it's believable. When the Asians told you, you didn't believe it. But when the old white dude tells you, oh, now it must be fact. Despite how annoying this couple was, there were some pretty good jump scares in this movie, especially with the ghost witch lady. She kept on popping up in places you would not expect her, and I really loved that. I love the creature design of the creepy woman. She was very well done. I mean, she reminds me of, if you've ever heard that, or stories about sleep paralysis and the witch that licks you. I've actually had that happen to me. One day I'll do a story time and tell you about that. I've had sleep paralysis 2 times, and it freaked me the hell out both times. But that's what she reminded me of. The sound design was pretty good for the most part, except for there's one scene where there's this loud humming sound in the background that made it hard for you to hear what the characters were saying, and I don't understand why they didn't go back and fix that. I believe they shot this on location, and it was very beautiful to see the scenery, and also I really appreciate the shot of the plane landing. You don't see that too much in movies. Ever since, I think, Bad Boys was the last time they had a beautiful shot of a plane landing. I would give this one a 6.5 out of 10 for enjoyment, for the design of the ghost woman and how she kept popping up on people, but the couple was too annoying to root for their survival. Continuing our hard-headed Americans tour, let's take a look at Temple. It starts off in Tochigi Prefecture in Japan, and there's a guard that's looking into like a room of some sort, and then she screams, and then it cuts to a totally different scene. It cuts to a man being wheeled into a room, and he appears to be in some type of burn unit type of apparatus around his wheelchair. He's being questioned by someone I assume is an investigator and an interpreter. Then the movie flashes back 5 days earlier with 3 people on vacation: a girl, her male friend, and her boyfriend. It shows them going around town. Well, actually I should note that they're in Tokyo and not in Tochigi anymore, but they're in Tokyo and they're having fun looking around. They go to a bookstore and they find this book about temples, and the woman that runs the bookstore says that book was placed there by accident and that it's not for sale. Being hard-headed as they are, one of them goes back and steals the book. He takes the book to a bar where the bar patrons explain to him, he asks one of the bar patrons to help him to decipher the book. Now here's one thing that's silly. This character is supposed to be knowledgeable in Japanese, and they show him speaking Japanese, but yet he didn't know that the book that he was looking at was to be read from right to left and not left to right. Someone in the bar had to tell him that. And if you had studied Japanese, I would think something like that would come up within your studies. But aside from that, the bar patron tells him that that temple's a bad place and don't go there. You know that he's not going to listen, or his friend or her boyfriend, they're not going to listen because of reasons. They go out to the village where the temple is, and an old man tells them a story about someone else that went to that temple and came back with his hands in his eyes. And at first, the person is like, oh, hands and eyes? And he's like, no, hands in his eyes. This character actually says, oh, I don't know what you mean. Clearly, he means the dude went up there and then came back out with his eyeballs in his hands. What do you mean you don't know what he means? He literally showed you what he means visually. You think this stops them from going to the temple? Of course not. If we did, we wouldn't have a horror movie, would we? Next stop, Stupidville. They go to the temple and one of them falls through a small staging area. Then the other guy's like, oh, we'll have to wait here till morning to get help. And I'm like, he fell like 3.5 feet. But apparently he somehow broke his foot, or broke his foot or his lower leg in that little fall. Later on, the girl says, this place isn't right, you think? Everyone told you it wasn't right. Everyone told you not to go there. This movie's mostly boring. The only time I felt some tension is when the girl was running through the mine with a flashlight, and I mentioned earlier how I feel about when people inspect places with a flashlight. Did I mention that with this last video, or which review was that? I think there was friend requests. Yeah, a girl was searching in the basement with a flashlight, and I explained then how I feel tense whenever a character goes into a place with a flashlight and looks around. I did like the interrogation scenes. I wish there was more interrogation scenes. And also there was a little boy in this that was so adorable. I won't spoil who he is, but he was just cutest little boy. The ending was abrupt and unsatisfying. The camera, the lighting, all the technical aspects of this movie were pretty much on point. They had a decent budget, so they had really no reason for it not to be. I didn't care for the design of the shape-shifting lady by the temple. There's just something about it. It was very Sci-Fi Channel Saturday night original movie. I give it a 4 out of 10 for enjoyment, for the interrogation scenes and the adorable little boy, but the rest of the movie was pretty mediocre. My sister was saying that this movie, well, both these movies, because she watched Ghost House and Temple with me, and she said this reminds me of The Serpent and the Rainbow. And I really didn't remember that movie, but I went back to watch it, and now I see why it reminded her of The Serpent and the Rainbow, because in that movie it was another American that went to Haiti and was told, you know, not to mess with certain spiritual stuff that had to do with voodoo. He doesn't listen or pay attention, and he just keeps getting deeper and deeper into trouble. At one point he's even he's tied to a chair naked and had a nail hammered through his scrotum. Does this stop him and make him go home and stay home in America? No. So both these movies, while Ghost House and Temple had some hard-headed people that didn't pay attention, they still weren't as hard-headed as the dude from The Serpent and the Rainbow. I forgot my sign-off. Like I always say, don't take my word for it. Watch for yourself. Just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it. Just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it.